Is it Anders? Anders? If you want to come up to this one. Go ahead.
All right, yeah. Forgive me, I've never given a public comment before, but my name is Anders. I'm a substitute teacher in the district, and I've lived here for 8 years now. And I also have been a T-ball coach, and I ran the summer camp at the city of Ashland for a long time. So um, I'm just here to comment on um, the approval of the minutes, so I can give a comment on the WCA decision because I've been out of town and unable to speak on it. And the positions that I've held in my time living in the city of Ashland uniquely position me to work with the children of the area. And I think often about the future and how I would explain things to kids. And I just am feeling quite frustrated that this summer and next fall, I will be explaining to high schoolers and middle schoolers that um, there was a decision made to prioritize a Canadian corporation's pipeline that runs from Canada to Canada and does not benefit our community. Um, when I understand that there is no stopping this pipeline and there needs to be funds recuperated for our community and our taxpayers. And when there are other counties in other states and other counties in our state that have proven in past instances of pipeline construction or reconstruction that they can create, the county board can use their power, or the city council in some instances can use their power to create individual contracts instead of working on a corporation themselves' timeline and meeting their needs and signing the first contract that came to them. I appreciate all of you on the board for what you do and for trying to recuperate money for our community when we know that what's going to happen this summer with the reconstruction project may bring a drain on our law enforcement officers and also our community resources. And I also just wanted to take this moment to express my frustration that the public was not asked to comment before the vote was made, and that we operated on someone else's timeline and prioritized Canadian money and Canadian people over the constituents of the city of Ashland and the county of Ashland. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is it Sean? Sean?
Good morning. My name's Sean Van Zeeland. I live in town in Ashland, and yeah, was also going to speak to the approval of the last meeting's minutes. And my goal was just to offer a fresh set of eyes recap of what I saw at that last meeting. What I saw was a lot of public disapproval of the WCA agreement, followed by a relatively there was a lot of public comment. There was a relatively brief discussion on the subject, where a lot of unanswered questions came up, such as we weren't sure if reimbursement would be included or approved for costs relating to the activities of off-duty employees of Enbridge. We also didn't have some questions very clearly answered about the transparency of the agreement in terms of, we know that conversations and communications between our county and the WCA are open to public records requests. Conversations between WCA and Enbridge are not. And so that transparency was lacking, and that was identified within that meeting. But then after that discussion, there was a vote to approve without any edits, which wound up carrying. And my reflection from a community member that I wanted to offer is that I want to trust our board to make decisions on our behalf. And overall, I really do. I really appreciated even just hearing this most recent conversation that y'all held. I think that there was a lot of consideration for community members there. But when a lot of people show up expressing disapproval of something, and then we vote for it without edits, without taking our time, that that makes it very difficult for me to place that trust. I also recognize that a lot of people were here speaking very strongly and put a lot of pressure on y'all, and so like I'm very aware of that like human aspect too of it's very hard to make decisions in those moments. So thank y'all for, like carrying that pressure. It was a lot. In the future, what I would love to see is that we remember that we're not beholden to anyone's timeline, and we're allowed to take our time to ask for revisions. We're allowed to table a topic for future discussion, and we're allowed to even offer alternatives that we feel better suit our community. Enbridge will be fine. They've got money. They can, if we take an extra month or two to approve their contract they offered us, they've got the money to make up for that loss of time. So in order to restore that trust, one option that I'd like to offer is if y'all did propose a motion to reconsider that agreement. I don't know if it's already been signed. If it has, I'm curious if a legal team could, get creative about what to do with that. But yeah, I would love to see a motion to reconsider that. I'd love to see some edits to improve transparency or even propose an alternative that we think better suits our community and our needs. I'd love to see us get creative and hold our ground. Thank you. And not settle for the first option that offers money, because I know we need the money, but we can't be desperate in how we receive it. So thank you.
Thank you. Bailey?
Hello, my name is Bailey Kroll. I live at 1301 6th Avenue West in Ashland. I'm also speaking to agenda item 6A, approval of the last minutes, to specifically speak to the Wisconsin counties agreement. I'll be honest, like, I don't want this agreement. I don't want the pipeline to be here. I want clean waters. I want treaties to be respected and upheld. I don't want Enbridge to be here. But I also understand something that many of y'all brought up, was that if we don't accept this agreement, we will go bankrupt. And I just kind of want to speak to, I totally hear that. And how can we come up with creative solutions that really empower what the community wants? Meaning direct transparency, because it's Ashland County, WCA, then Enbridge, and there is not a direct line between Enbridge and Ashland County. And that can just feel really cringy and untrustworthy from people in the county. There's some sounds. And so I just want to, I would love if there's a motion to reconsider the WCA agreement. Maybe it's already been signed. Is there something that we could do to maybe limit how we use those funds? And then is there maybe an agreement that we want to bring forth that's directly to Enbridge, so that there's more transparency? And therefore all of that will be subject to open records requests. But really, I just want to think about how can we get creative with this, because so many of us spoke at the last meeting all saying, we don't want this, we don't want this. And then for it to pass is what does democracy look like? I know that many of y'all appreciate us speaking, but it can just feel kind of hard when it's we all spoke and we said we didn't want this, and yet it's still happening, which I understand there's many things that go into that. But how we have a lot of power as a county in this situation. In Bayfield County, they said no to the agreement. Then Enbridge came back and was here's some edits. What do you think of this? And it sounds like they're still kind of no, I don't know about that. They're in a slightly different position because the pipeline isn't as much through their county. But I want to just be we have leveraging power in this, and just want to kind of bring that up, whether it's with Enbridge or if it's in the future with other corporations and extractive industries that want to come in, to just really think about that broadly. And yeah, I really appreciate y'all being open, and some conversations that I've had with y'all since then in emails. So I just am grateful for the opportunity to speak, but did want to just kind of, express that recap of oh, I'm kind of sad about that. And I wonder if there's anything we can do now. So thank you.
Thank you.
And then I wanted to touch on the Enbridge agreement. I know it's somewhat controversial, and I know Bayfield County is going to be taking it up again. But a couple points I want to stress. One, this agreement wasn't done in secret. It was posted on our website a week before the meeting. The public had access to it a week before, and they could read it and make comments. Two is it was written by, WCA's counsel, who serves as our counsel on occasion too. It addresses the needs of counties and the costs that will be incurred. Um, open records are an issue. Yes, WCA is not subject to open records, neither is Enbridge, but Ashland County is. So every request that we make for funding is subject to open records. So there's not anything to hide. Anybody who wants to can make those requests. And, as Andy Phillips said at the last meeting, we are subject to open records laws. So we will comply with any request that is subject to open records laws. It was brought up today about making a motion to reconsider. Under Robert's rules, that would be out of order at this point. That motion would have had to be made at this meeting. And since this meeting, nobody made it for the agenda, asked to have it on the agenda, it can't be considered in the future under Robert's rules. And then the deputies. I know there's concern about the deputies and how they're going to react. And I have to say, we have great deputies. They've treated the public with courtesy and respect for all these years. I don't expect them to do anything different. I mean, why would we expect them to act differently than they are now? We have to trust in them that they're going to act the same way, and I fully expect them to, and the sheriff fully expects them to. So let's trust them before we say anything about them. They've done nothing but earn our trust. So I think we should continue to do that. And it is much better that we have them on duty, accountable to the sheriff, as opposed to maybe moonlighting for Enbridge, where they're not accountable to the sheriff. That creates a giant risk for the county, and I think this is much better where they have direct control from our elected sheriff and follow our handbook, our policies, our rules, and are accountable ultimately to the sheriff and to us. So I think we need to trust them, and because they've done nothing but earn our trust. So, and the sheriff is not going to put up with a bunch of nonsense. So he will make sure they act appropriately and accordingly. And I can say the same thing for Bayfield County if they end up approving the agreement. We need to trust their deputies too. And if the city of Ashland's called in, the city of Ashland police has been nothing but good too. So we need to trust our law enforcement here. They've served the community well for many years, and I don't really see a reason why they wouldn't continue to do so. So I guess that's my comments.
I just want to say one quick thing, and I've said it before. One of the reasons why we have an agreement with Enbridge on law enforcement is Line 3 in Minnesota cost the state of Minnesota and those government agencies $4 million in law enforcement costs. I am not saying that's what's going to happen here, but I've already had contact with the group that's coming, and I've told them this: we will not stand in the way of protests. That is your business, your right, as long as you're doing it on the road or public property. Once you get certain public property, once you get onto private property, that's not the county board's responsibility. That's the sheriff's department's responsibility. And I said, we will do everything we can to make your protests available, but you have to do it within the reasonable law, because like I say, that line is going through an awful lot of private property, and that's the concern we have. We want to keep everybody safe. So I just bring that up because it's going to be an issue. And I've talked to some of the protest leaders and said, you have every right to protest. We're not going to stop you peacefully or whatever protesting. You just have to realize that you have to be careful where you are. So, Pat?